At Thanksgiving, my grandpa said, "Glad you're enjoying the college fund we set up." I blinked. What fund? My dad went pale, my mom dropped her fork, and grandpa's face shifted from proud to confused. So I, 22 male, always the responsible one, while my younger brother Tyler was a complete mess, failing community college, getting in trouble, generally being useless. I worked construction for 3 years to pay for my mechanical engineering degree. 18 bucks an hour swinging hammers, mixing concrete, coming home covered in dust and cement burns. Meanwhile, Tyler got everything handed to him. My parents constantly bragged about how independent I was. Mom would tell anyone who'd listen how I never asked for money, how mature I was compared to other kids. She drives a brand new BMW X3, gets her nails done at expensive salons, shops constantly. I'm driving a beat-up 2003 F-150 with 200,000 miles, rust spots, and duct tape holding the bumper on. No AC, radio only gets AM stations. I have to hit the dashboard to make the speedometer work. My best friend Alex, trust fund kid whose parents aren't even as wealthy as mine, always thought something was fishy. Bro, he'd say, my dad makes half what your dad makes at the plant, and he still covers my car insurance, phone bill, gives me spending money. Something's really weird about your family's money situation. I always defended them. Told Alex they were teaching me responsibility, building character, preparing me for the real world. Looking back, I was a complete idiot. Dad makes $80,000 a year as a plant supervisor, plus overtime and bonuses. But somehow there was never money for their supposedly beloved, responsible son. Turns out there was a very good reason for that. And when I found out the truth, I made sure the entire town knew exactly what kind of people my parents really were. So Thanksgiving rolls around last year. We always do this massive family dinner at my grandparents' house, Grandpa Bill and Grandma Ruth. These are genuine salt-of-the-earth people who worked their whole lives, saved every penny, and never bought anything they couldn't afford twice. Grandpa was a union electrician for 40 years, worked through 3 recessions, never missed a day unless he was literally in the hospital. Grandma was a school secretary for 35 years, knew every kid in town, helped raise half the neighborhood. They've always been super tight with money, but incredibly generous with family, the kind of people who'll slip you a 20 and tell you not to tell anyone. Their house is this old 2-story farmhouse that Grandpa basically built himself in the 1970s. Everything's solid wood, built to last forever, immaculately maintained. Grandma still has the same furniture from when they got married, not because they can't afford new stuff, but because it still works perfectly fine. The dining room table is this massive oak thing that seats 12 people comfortably, and every Thanksgiving it's absolutely loaded with food. Dinner's going completely normal. Turkey that Grandpa spent 2 days brining and smoking, Grandma's famous stuffing that has some secret ingredient she'll never reveal, football on the old tube TV in the living room, my cousin Emma talking about nursing school and how hard organic chemistry is. Tyler's there looking tired as usual, probably hungover from whatever he did the night before. Mom's complaining about something stupid like how the grocery store was out of the specific brand of cranberry sauce she wanted. Dad's arguing with Uncle Steve about politics and whether the plant's going to get that new contract. Standard Peterson family chaos. Then Grandpa stands up to give one of his traditional speeches. He gets really sentimental at holidays. It's actually pretty sweet. The man fought in Vietnam, worked dangerous jobs his whole life, but holidays make him tear up every single time. He's talking about being proud of his grandkids, watching us grow up into good people, how blessed he feels to have family around the table, all that good grandfather stuff that normally makes everyone smile and nod along. Then he looks directly at me with this huge, proud smile and says, "And Adam, I'm just real happy to see that college fund we set up is helping you get through engineering school without drowning in debt like so many kids these days. Makes all those extra shifts I worked worth every penny." The entire room went dead silent, like you could hear the clock ticking in the kitchen silent. I'm staring at him like he just spoke a foreign language. My brain completely stopped working for a second. What college fund? That's when I noticed Mom's fork frozen halfway to her mouth, mashed potatoes still stuck on it, and Dad suddenly becomes intensely interested in studying his plate like it contains the secrets of the universe. Tyler's the only one still eating, completely oblivious as always, making gross chewing noises that suddenly seem incredibly loud. "The fund we started when you were born," Grandpa says, looking genuinely confused by my reaction. "Been putting money in every birthday and Christmas for 22 years. Your mom said you were doing great managing it for college expenses. Should be around $65,000 by now. Maybe more with the interest." $65,000. I felt like someone hit me square in the chest with a sledgehammer. The air just left my lungs completely. Nobody ever told me about any fund, I managed to say, and my voice sounded weird and far away. That's when Mom finally spoke up, and here's where you get to see exactly what kind of person she really is. Instead of looking ashamed or apologetic, or even surprised, she gets this really pissy defensive tone, like I'm some nosy kid asking to see their private business. Well, we didn't think you needed to know every detail of our family's financial arrangements, she says, like I'm asking to audit their taxes or something. You're still in college. You don't need to worry about complicated money stuff. Our family's financial arrangements, I said, my voice getting louder. Grandpa just said it was my college fund. Technically, it was set up in our names, Dad mutters, without looking up from his food. For tax purposes and legal reasons. We're managing it responsibly. Alex, who'd been invited because my grandparents absolutely love him and always insist he comes to family events, suddenly perks up like he just heard the most interesting thing in the world. Hold up, he says, grinning like it's Christmas morning. You mean to tell me Adam's been eating ramen noodles and working construction for 4 years while y'all been sitting on $65,000 that's supposed to be his college money? And that's when everything started falling apart in the most spectacular way possible. Mom's face turned bright red, and she snapped at Alex with this really nasty tone. This is a private family matter, Alex, and it's absolutely none of your business. But Alex just started laughing. Not mean laughing, but like he's watching the best entertainment he's seen all year. Nah, Mrs. Peterson, this is definitely my business now. This is better than cable TV. Please continue explaining how you've been managing Adam's college money. I love this dude so much. Grandpa was not having any of Mom's attitude. His face had gone from confused to seriously angry, and I could see his hands clenching. Linda, that money was never meant for you and Dave to manage however you wanted. It was specifically for Adam's education expenses. Well, maybe you should have thought about that before insisting on putting it in our names, Mom shot back, crossing her arms defensively. We didn't ask for the responsibility of managing someone else's money. We put it in your names because we trusted you, Grandma said, speaking up for the first time. Her voice was shaky but really angry, and Grandma never gets angry about anything. We thought you'd do right by your grandson. We did what we had to do for this family, Mom said, getting even more defensive. The house needed a new roof after that storm. Tyler needed help with his legal fees from that mess. I needed extensive dental work that insurance wouldn't cover. You got veneers, I cut her off, my voice getting louder. I remember because you wouldn't shut up about them for 3 months. Posted pictures on Facebook every day. Boss, those were medically necessary dental procedures? Alex started making this snorting sound, trying not to laugh out loud. Medical veneers? What condition is that exactly? Chronic ugly teeth syndrome. Even Tyler looked up from his food at that one, which is saying something because the kid could sleep through a tornado. Dad tried to jump in and take control of the situation. Adam, you don't understand how expensive it is to run a household and raise a family. The mortgage payments, utilities, insurance. Your brother's problems that we've had to deal with. My problems? I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. What about my problems? You know what I did last semester when my truck broke down and I couldn't afford to fix it? I walked 4 miles to campus every single day for 3 weeks in the rain because I couldn't afford to fix it and buy groceries in the same month. You want to know what I ate for dinner last Tuesday? A sleeve of saltine crackers and a can of beans, because that's literally all I could afford after buying my thermodynamics textbook. You never asked us for help, Mom said, like that was supposed to be some kind of brilliant point that proved her innocence. Because you told me we didn't have money to help. You said the family budget was tight, that I needed to be responsible and figure it out myself. That college was my responsibility. Alex was recording this entire conversation on his phone now, holding it up openly. Bro, this is absolutely incredible. This is going straight to the group chat. Stop recording our private conversation, Mom shrieked. Nah, this is definitely going in the group chat, Alex said cheerfully. The boys need to see this level of family drama. That's when Dad really lost it completely. Started yelling at Alex to delete the video immediately, threatening to call the cops, saying he'd have Alex arrested for recording without permission, the whole 9 yards. But Alex just kept grinning and held his phone higher. Mr. Peterson, with all due respect, your son just found out you guys stole his college fund. I think that's definitely worth documenting for posterity. The word stole hit the room like a bomb going off. Mom started screaming that they didn't steal anything. It was their money to manage. They had family expenses and responsibilities. Tyler needed help and support. I was doing just fine on my own anyway, blah, blah, blah. But Grandpa had heard enough. He stood up slowly, walked over to where Dad was still yelling at Alex, and in this calm, quiet voice that somehow carried more authority than shouting said, "Dave, I want you and Linda out of my house. Right now. Dad, you're completely overreacting to this situation. Get out of my house." I'd never heard Grandpa raise his voice before in my entire life. It was like thunder rolling across the room. Mom grabbed her purse, still muttering under her breath about how unfair everyone was being, how she sacrificed so much for this family, how nobody understood how hard things were for parents these days, how we didn't appreciate everything she did. Tyler shuffled out behind them without making eye contact with anyone, probably just happy to escape the drama. After they left, the house was dead quiet, except for Grandma crying softly into her napkin. Alex broke the silence. "Dude, your parents are legitimately sociopaths." And honestly, I was starting to think he might be absolutely right. That night, Alex and I went back to my tiny apartment and started serious detective work. Alex might be a trust fund kid, but he's also a business major with a minor in accounting, so the dude actually knows money stuff really well. Plus, he's got access to resources through his family that I could never afford. "First things first," he said, opening a can of soda and settling in at my kitchen table. "We need to see exactly how much they actually took and where every penny went. How the heck do we even begin to do that? Your grandparents set up the fund, right? They'll have all the documentation. Bank statements, trust documents, deposit records, withdrawal records, all that financial paper trail stuff." I called Grandpa first thing the next morning. He was still really angry but more sad than mad, which somehow made it worse. "I've got all the paperwork," he said in this tired voice. "Been keeping detailed records for 22 years. Every deposit, every statement, everything. Come over this afternoon and we'll go through it all." When we got to their house, Grandpa had everything laid out on the dining room table like he was preparing for war. Bank statements going back decades, deposit slips, trust documents, even a handwritten notebook where he'd recorded every single contribution with dates and amounts. The man had kept better records than most businesses. "Holy cow," Alex whistled, looking at the sheer volume of paperwork. "Your grandpa doesn't mess around with documentation." The numbers were absolutely brutal when we started adding them up. They started with $500 when I was born, then regular deposits of $200 to $300 every birthday and Christmas, without fail. Some years they put in more when Grandpa got overtime pay or tax refunds or bonuses. During good years, they'd deposit $500 or even $1,000. By the time I turned 18, there should have been about $45,000 in there. But they kept adding to it all through college, thinking it was helping with my expenses and planning for my future. Total amount that should have been there, $68,500. Current balance, $347. "They completely cleaned it out," Alex said, studying the withdrawal records with his business major brain. "Look at this garbage. August 2019, $8,000 withdrawal marked home improvements. December 2020, $12,000 marked family emergency. March 2021, $15,000 marked medical expenses." "Those veneers," I said, feeling sick to my stomach. "And look at this one," Alex pointed to another withdrawal. September 2021, $9,500 marked legal fees. That's got to be Tyler's legal trouble, right? We spent 3 solid hours going through every single piece of paper. It was like watching a slow-motion robbery happening over years. Every few months, another big chunk would disappear. Sometimes it was $3,000, sometimes $8,000. Once it was $15,000 all at once. They weren't even trying to hide it or make it look legitimate. The absolute worst part? They were taking my money while I was literally struggling to eat. Spring 2022, they withdrew $6,000 for vehicle maintenance, which I now realize was probably Mom's BMW lease payment. The exact same month I was living on peanut butter sandwiches and instant oatmeal because I couldn't afford real groceries. "This is actually criminal," Alex said, getting serious for once. Like, genuinely criminal behavior. Misappropriation of funds, fraud, probably breach of fiduciary duty, maybe a bunch of other charges. What can I actually do about it legally? Sue them into oblivion. Grandpa overheard from the kitchen where he was making coffee. "You got every right in the world, son. I'm so sorry this happened. If I'd known what they were doing." "It's absolutely not your fault, Grandpa." But I could see the guilt eating at him. These people had trusted their own son with their grandson's future, and he'd robbed me blind while lying to everyone. That night, Alex and I made a comprehensive plan. We were going to hit them where it would hurt the most, their precious reputation. See, my parents are pretty big shots in our small town. Dad's a supervisor at the plant with a good reputation. Mom's involved in all these social clubs and charity events and church committees. They care a lot about what people think of them and their standing in the community. We're going to burn their whole fake image to the ground, Alex said, and I was completely on board with that plan. But first, I needed to understand exactly how much legal trouble they were potentially looking at. Monday morning, I went to the legal aid office at school. The lawyer spent an hour reviewing all the documents Alex and I had organized. This is cut and dried, he said. Clear misappropriation of trust funds, potentially fraud, breach of fiduciary duty. The fact that they continued taking money while knowing you were struggling makes it significantly worse from a criminal perspective. Yet, what kind of trouble are they looking at? Civil liability for sure. They'd have to pay back every penny plus interest and punitive damages. Criminal charges are definitely possible too. We're talking potential felony charges here. I felt this weird mix of satisfaction and nausea. These were still my parents, even if they were terrible ones. Alex was waiting outside, practically bouncing with excitement. So, how totally screwed are they? Pretty completely screwed if I decide to pursue it. Excellent. Now for phase 2 of our master plan. Alex had this idea that was pure evil genius. His family belongs to the same country club as people my parents know. Business owners, city council members, church leaders, other important people who care about reputation. I'm going to have my mom casually mention at book club that she heard about your family situation, Alex explained. Nothing too specific, just like, oh, I heard the Petersons had some serious family drama over money management. Those ladies will do the rest. That's pretty ruthless, man. Your parents stole $70,000 from you while watching you eat ramen for 4 years. Screw them completely. He had a valid point. But before we started the public humiliation campaign, something crazy happened. Mom called Tuesday night, crying. Adam, baby, we really need to talk. There's been a huge misunderstanding. I put her on speaker so Alex could hear. We were managing it responsibly for you, she explained. We knew if you had access to that much money in college, you'd waste it on parties and girls like most college kids. We were protecting it for your future. Alex had to cover his mouth to keep from laughing. Protecting it? Mom, there's $347 left. We had major family expenses. Your father's been laid off. Tyler's legal trouble cost thousands. The house needed repairs. So you spent my money on your problems. It wasn't technically your money yet. You were still a minor when we started using it. I've been legally an adult for 4 years, Mom. Long silence. We'll set up a payment plan. Maybe $500 a month. Alex grabbed a calculator. That would take over 11 years. I want every penny back, plus interest, within 90 days. If you can't do that, I'm filing criminal charges and a civil lawsuit. Adam, that's completely impossible. Then you better figure it out quickly. I hung up. Alex was practically bouncing. Dude, that was ice cold. I'm so proud. Think they'll actually pay? No way. Which means we move to phase 3, which is time for the nuclear option, baby. Phase 3 of our plan was absolutely beautiful in its execution. Alex had connections everywhere through his family's social network, and he started casually dropping hints about my situation to exactly the right people. Not malicious stuff that would seem like gossip, just genuine concern for his friend's difficult family situation. Within 1 week, the whispers had started spreading through town. Small-town gossip networks are faster than the internet and way more vicious when they get rolling. Mom called me 3 times that week, getting more frantic and desperate each time. People are talking, Adam. Mrs. Henderson asked me about some family financial troubles at the grocery store yesterday. What exactly did you tell people about our private business? I didn't tell anyone anything, Mom. Then how do people know about our personal family matters? Maybe because you stole $70,000 from your own son? That kind of thing tends to get around eventually. We didn't steal anything. We managed family resources responsibly. But I could hear the genuine panic in her voice. Her precious reputation was starting to crack. The real nuclear bomb went off when Alex's mom accidentally mentioned the situation to Mrs. Campbell, who runs the biggest and most efficient gossip network in 3 counties. By the end of that week, literally everyone in town knew that Dave and Linda Peterson had stolen their son's college fund while he worked construction and ate ramen noodles. Dad called me Saturday morning, absolutely furious and desperate. You need to control this situation immediately, Adam. I'm getting weird looks at work. Your mother's crying every single day. This needs to stop right now. There's an easy solution, Dad. Pay me back. We don't have $70,000 just sitting around. Then maybe you shouldn't have spent $70,000 that wasn't yours to spend. Dang it, Adam. We're supposed to be family. Real family doesn't steal from each other. We were absolutely going to pay it back eventually. When exactly? Tyler's 25 and still living in your basement playing video games? Mom just bought a new purse last week that probably cost more than my monthly rent? When exactly were you planning to pay me back? He couldn't answer that question, but the best part was still coming. See, Alex had done some research on Dad's work situation. Turns out the plant where he's a supervisor has pretty strict ethics policies for management employees. People in supervisory positions can't have legal troubles or financial scandals because it reflects badly on the company's reputation. Your dad's gonna have to disclose this whole situation to HR, Alex told me. Criminal charges, civil lawsuits, all that stuff has to be reported. They might not fire him immediately, but his chances of ever getting promoted again are basically zero. And Mom? Her social standing was already being completely destroyed. The charity board she was on started restructuring, and somehow her positions got eliminated. Her book club friends were suddenly too busy for lunch dates. The country club where she liked to brag about her successful family became a minefield of whispered conversations and judgmental looks. It was absolutely beautiful to watch. But I wasn't done yet. Remember how I mentioned I was studying mechanical engineering? Well, I'm actually pretty good at it. Good enough that I'd been working part-time at a local manufacturing company, and they offered me a full-time position after graduation. Starting salary, $75,000 a year, plus benefits and potential bonuses. I hadn't told my parents about the job offer yet, but it was definitely time to play that card. 2 months after the Thanksgiving disaster, things had gotten really bad for my parents. Dad was still working but got passed over for a promotion he'd been expecting for months. Mom had basically become a social pariah. Her friend group completely evaporated. Her charity positions disappeared, and people actively avoided her at the grocery store. Tyler, being the absolute genius he is, decided this was the perfect time to get arrested again. Third offense, which means mandatory jail time and his license suspended for 2 years minimum. Guess who Mom and Dad expected to bail him out and pay for a lawyer? Definitely not me. They were getting really desperate, and desperation makes people do incredibly stupid things, like showing up at my apartment unannounced on a Wednesday night at like 9 p.m. I opened the door to find both of them standing there, looking absolutely terrible. Mom had obviously been crying. Her makeup was completely smeared, and her usually perfect hair was a mess. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years and 2 months, with dark circles under his eyes and this defeated posture. "We really need to talk," Dad said. Alex was over playing video games on my ancient console, and he immediately perked up like he was watching his favorite TV show. "Oh snap, this is going to be incredibly good. Want me to leave?" "Nah, stay put. They can say whatever they need to say in front of you." Mom pushed past me into my living room, looking around at my secondhand furniture and tiny TV like she was visiting a homeless shelter. "Adam, this whole situation has gone way too far," she started. "People won't even talk to me anymore. Your father's career is being ruined. The whole family is falling apart. Weird how that happens when people find out you're thieves." "We are not thieves," she snapped. "We're your parents. Everything we did was for this family's benefit." Alex paused his game and turned around. "Lady, you bought a BMW with your son's college money while he ate ramen noodles. That's not for the family. That's just being a terrible person. Nobody asked for your opinion." Mom turned on him. "This is your fault. You're the one spreading lies about us all over town." "Actually," Alex said cheerfully, "I just told people the truth about what happened. Y'all did the rest yourselves." Dad tried to take control of the situation. "Adam, son, we know we made some mistakes, but we're family. We can work this out without lawyers and courts and all this public drama. You had 70,000 chances to work it out. You spent every single one of them." "Oh, we'll pay you back," Mom said desperately. "Every penny, I absolutely swear." "With what money?" "Tyler needs bail money and a lawyer. You've got a BMW payment and a mortgage you can barely afford. Dad's not getting any more promotions. Where exactly is this money going to come from?" They looked at each other, and I could see them having one of those silent married couple conversations with their eyes. Finally, Dad spoke up. We could take out a second mortgage on the house. And put yourselves even further in debt? That's a genius plan." Or, Mom said, and I could see her getting really desperate, "Tyler could move out and get his own place. We could sell the BMW and get something much cheaper." This was getting interesting. They were actually talking about real sacrifices now instead of just empty promises. "Keep going," I said. "We could cut up all the credit cards," Dad added. "Stop eating out completely, cancel the cable and streaming services, whatever it takes." Alex was recording this entire conversation on his phone again, grinning like an absolute maniac. And how long would it realistically take you to save up $70,000 living like that? They did some quick math in their heads, and I watched their faces fall as they realized the impossible truth. Maybe, maybe 10 years? Mom said in this tiny voice. Try 20 years minimum, and that's assuming Tyler doesn't get arrested again and need more money for lawyers. That's when Mom completely broke down and lost it. Started crying these big, ugly sobs about how sorry she was, how she never meant for things to go this far, how she just wanted to give her family a good life and provide for everyone. But I was completely done feeling sorry for her. You know what's really funny? I said. You keep talking about providing for the family and giving us a good life. But you know what would have actually given me a good life? Not eating ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches for 4 years. Not walking to school in the rain because my truck was broken and I couldn't afford to fix it. Not staying up at night worrying about whether I could afford textbooks or groceries. We didn't know it was that bad for you, Dad said quietly, because you never bothered to ask. You were too busy spending my money on yourselves to give a darn about how I was actually doing. That's when I decided it was time to drop the biggest bomb of all. But here's the thing. I don't actually need your money anymore. They both looked completely confused. I walked over to my desk and pulled out a folder I'd been saving for the right moment. Remember how you always said I was so independent and responsible? Well, turns out that actually pays off in the real world. I handed Dad the job offer letter. His face went completely white as he read it. $75,000 a year, he whispered. Starting salary. With bonuses and overtime, I'll probably clear 85 or 90 grand my first year. Mom snatched the letter from his hands. This is more than your father makes. Yeah, turns out companies actually value people who show up on time, work hard, and don't steal from their own families. The room went dead quiet except for Alex trying really hard not to laugh out loud. So here's exactly what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to pay me back every single penny you stole, plus interest, all of it, and you're going to do it fast. Adam, we can't possibly. Or, I cut Dad off. I press criminal charges. Grand theft, fraud, whatever else the prosecutor wants to throw at you. Dad loses his job, you lose the house, and Tyler can figure out his own legal problems. Mom was hyperventilating now. You wouldn't actually do that to your own parents. Try me. And that's when they both started begging me not to destroy their lives. What happened next was honestly the most pathetic thing I've ever witnessed in my entire life. My parents, who had spent 22 years treating me like the family afterthought who didn't matter as much as Tyler, got down on their knees in my crappy apartment and literally begged me not to destroy their lives. Mom was sobbing uncontrollably, makeup running down her face in black streaks, grabbing at my hands like I was her last hope. Please, Adam, please don't do this to us. I'm so sorry for everything. I'll do absolutely anything. I'll sell everything I own. Just please don't send your father to prison. Dad was trying to maintain some dignity, but I could see him completely cracking under the pressure. Son, I know we screwed up badly, but prison, that would literally kill me. And your mother, she'd lose everything we've worked for. Alex was filming the entire thing, barely containing his laughter. Bro, this is better than any movie I've ever seen. I let them grovel and beg for several minutes. Not gonna lie, it felt pretty darn good watching them squirm, after all the years of being treated like I didn't matter to this family. Finally, I spoke up. All right, here's my deal. And this is completely non-negotiable. They looked up at me like I was about to pronounce their death sentence. First, you're going to sell the BMW, today. Not trade it in for something cheaper. Sell it outright and use every single penny toward what you owe me. Mom started to protest, but Dad immediately shut her up. Second, Tyler moves out today. He's 25 years old. It's way past time he figured out his own life. You're not paying for his lawyer. You're not bailing him out. You're not giving him another penny. But he's our son, too, Mom started. So am I. Didn't stop you from robbing me blind for 4 years. Third, you're getting a second job, Mom. I don't care if it's cleaning houses or working at McDonald's or whatever. You're going to contribute to paying back what you stole. Her face went completely white. Linda Peterson, social butterfly and wannabe socialite, working a service job? The absolute horror. Fourth, you're going to liquidate everything valuable you own. Jewelry, electronics, expensive furniture, all of it. Everything goes directly toward the debt. That's literally everything we have, Dad whispered. Should have thought about that before you spent everything I had. And finally, I said, enjoying every single second of this, you're going to take out that second mortgage and a personal loan and max out whatever credit you have left. Because you're going to pay me back in full within 6 months, not 20 years. That's completely impossible, Mom cried. We can't possibly borrow that much money. Then I guess you're going to prison. The silence stretched on for what felt like forever. I could practically see them doing the math in their heads, trying to figure out if it was even remotely possible. Finally, Dad spoke up. And if we somehow manage to do all this, you'll drop the criminal charges? I never actually filed criminal charges. They both looked confused. Yet, I added, but if you meet every single one of my terms, I won't need to. And you'll forgive us? Mom asked hopefully. I actually laughed out loud. Forgive you? Mom, you stole my college fund and watched me struggle for 4 years without saying a word. You bought yourself a BMW while I was eating ramen noodles and walking to school in the rain. You got expensive veneers while I was duct taping my shoes together. No, I'm absolutely not going to forgive you. But I might not hate you forever if you actually make this right. Alex finally couldn't hold it in anymore and burst out laughing. Dude, you are absolutely ice cold. I love it so much. Mom glared at him with pure hatred. This is all your fault. If you hadn't started spreading lies about us, if I hadn't what? Told people the truth? Lady, you did this entire thing to yourselves. Dad grabbed Mom's arm. Linda, stop. We need to focus on fixing this mess. They spent the next 2 hours calling people. The BMW dealer, their bank, a loan officer Alex's dad had recommended. It was absolutely brutal watching them realize just how messed up their finances really were. But here's the beautiful part. They actually managed to pull it off. Sort of. The BMW sold for $35,000. They got approved for a second mortgage worth $20,000. Mom swallowed her pride completely and got a job at a cleaning service making $12 an hour. Dad started working overtime and weekends religiously. They sold all her jewelry, their expensive furniture, even Dad's gun collection that he'd been building for 20 years. Tyler, predictably, completely lost his mind when they told him he had to move out immediately and handle his own legal problems. Called me screaming about how I was destroying the family and how he was going to kick my butt for ruining everything. Alex and I were at the gym when Tyler showed up to make good on his threat. Let's just say 4 years of construction work had left me in pretty excellent shape. And Tyler had spent 4 years playing video games and eating junk food. The butt kicking lasted about 30 seconds total. By Christmas, my parents had somehow scraped together $68,500, the full amount they'd stolen plus interest. I made them write me a cashier's check at the bank, with Alex as a witness to make it official. There, Dad said, handing over the check with shaking hands. We're completely even now. No, I said calmly. Now we're even on the money. We're definitely not even as people. Mom started crying again. What do you want from us, Adam? We've given you absolutely everything. I want you to understand what you actually did to me. You didn't just steal money. You stole 4 years of my life. You stole my trust and family. You stole my respect. And you did it all while pretending to be proud of how independent I was. We are proud of you, Dad said quietly. No, you're not. You're proud that I didn't cause you any trouble. There's a big difference. I deposited the check that same afternoon, used some of it to completely pay off my student loans, put the rest in savings. For the first time in my adult life, I actually had real financial security.